Imagine, right, just popping down to the high street and buying a brand new wireless printer for, say, 40 quid.
Oh, yeah. Classic trap.
Right, you think, what an absolute bargain. You get it home, you plug it in, print a few things, and then a month later, the ink runs out.
And we all know what happens next.
Exactly. The replacement ink cartridges, they cost you like 60 quid. You suddenly realize the printer wasn't a bargain at all. It was just a trap to sell you massively overpriced ink. Well, today, we're going to show you why buying a house in the UK is essentially the ultimate printer ink trap.
It is, it's genuinely the perfect analogy. Because when you are buying a home, which is easily one of the most stressful, nail-biting things you will ever do, you fixate entirely on the price of the printer.
Yeah, the asking price.
Spot on. You look at the property price, you agonize over the mortgage rate, you finally get the bank to say yes, and you think, brilliant, I have crossed the finish line.
You pop open the bubbly, take that obligatory photo with the keys for the group chat.
Exactly. But the mortgage is just the starting gun. The actual test of whether you can afford that property is the ink.
The running costs.
Yes. It is the vast, complex ecosystem of month-to-month running costs that will completely dictate your actual quality of life. The fixed costs, the variable costs, the hidden fees that just, ambush you through the letterbox.
Which brings us to our mission for you today. We are diving deep into a really brilliant, comprehensive guide. It was published by Before You Move back in April 2026.
Right.
It's titled, How Much Does an Area Really Cost to Live In After You Buy? And the whole point of this deep dive is to rescue you from that dreadful sticker shock.
Which so many buyers suffer from.
They really do. So we're going to help you map out the actual recurring costs of living in a specific UK postcode. No guesswork.
And, that lack of guesswork is what makes this source material so empowering. Usually, buyers are flying entirely blind. But this guide is built on a really rigorous methodology. They define a full basket of running costs, pull area-specific prices from official primary sources, convert all those confusing annual tariffs into a flat monthly plan, and then, crucially, they compare neighborhoods strictly like for like.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into the juicy comparisons between different cities, we really need to understand the mechanics of this basket of costs.
Right.
I mean, I always assumed things like council tax and energy bills were relatively standard across the board, but looking at this, it is an absolute postcode lottery, isn't it?
It really, really is. Let's start with the fixed fees, right? Like council tax. People know they have to pay it, obviously, but very few understand how it's actually calculated.
Yeah, it's just a bill that arrives.
Exactly.
Right.
But the guide points out that this is set by local authorities based on Valuation Office Agency, or VOA bands.
Wait, hold on. VOA.
Yes.
I've seen that acronym thrown around, but how do they actually decide what band you are in? Is somebody driving past my house with a clipboard guessing what it's worth today?
That is the fascinating and, frankly, completely baffling part of the UK system. If you are in England or Scotland, your VOA band is still based on what your property would have been worth on the 1st of April, 1991.
You are joking. 1991.
I am completely serious.
I was watching entirely different telly programs back then. So wait, a massive modern extension might not bump up your band if it wasn't reassessed.
Right.
But a newly built flat next door gets hammered with a higher band because it's assessed differently.
Precisely. If you're in Wales, it's based on 2003 values, by the way. But it is a convoluted mechanism, which is why the guide insists you must look up the exact current VOA band for the specific property on the official government register.
You can't just guess.
No, you cannot just guess based on the modern asking price. And then, then you have the variable fees, which are arguably even trickier.
Right, like energy and water. And obviously, how much you pay depends on how often you boil the kettle or run the heating.
Sure.
But it's more than just usage, right?
Oh, far more. Let's take energy. Most people know about the Ofgem price cap, but they sort of assume it's a single blanket rate for the whole country.
Which it isn't.
It isn't. The price cap limits the pence per kilowatt hour you pay for gas and electricity, as well as the daily standing charge. But that actually varies by region.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The infrastructure costs are different depending on where you live. So Ofgem basically bakes those regional disparities right into the cap.
So I could use the exact same amount of energy as my mate 2 towns over, but my direct debit will be different.
Exactly. It's completely counterintuitive for most people.
That is wild. And water is the same. I always assumed water was just, well, water.
Water is incredibly fragmented. Depending on your local water undertaker, your bill could swing wildly.
Oh, wow.
A massive factor is whether your home relies on metered or unmetered billing. But beyond that, there is this thing called surface water drainage.
I saw that in the guide. What on earth is surface water drainage? Is it just rain?
Basically, yes. It is the cost of processing rainwater that falls on your property and runs away into the public sewers.
Okay, sounds simple enough.
But how it's calculated is the real kicker. Some water companies just charge a flat fee. Others calculate it based on the physical chargeable area of your property.
Meaning what
I
exactly?
mean the physical footprint of your roof and your driveway. So you have a massive paved driveway in one postcode, you could be paying a small fortune just for the rain hitting it.
No way.
Yeah. Whereas a few miles down the road with a different water company, it's just a cheap flat rate.
It's the ink. It's the printer ink all over again.
It really is.
You genuinely cannot just guess these numbers. Which honestly leads us beautifully into the real meat of this guide.
Yes, the case studies.
Right, because to prove how wildly these costs vary, the experts at Before You Move didn't just give us theory, they gave us cold, hard data. They mapped out 2 real-world scenarios that really opened my eyes.
The contrast they provide is just brilliant. Let's take a couple looking to buy in London, specifically Zone 3 in the London borough of Waltham Forest.
Okay.
They're looking at a bog-standard 2-bed leasehold flat.
Okay, so paint the picture for me. What is the actual monthly damage for this flat outside of the actual mortgage?
Let's break it down into a monthly budget. First, that 1991-based council tax. In Waltham Forest, a Band D property is going to cost them just under 200 quid a month, specifically 198.91.
Ouch. Okay.
Then, because it is a leasehold flat, they have a service charge. Based on the averages for the area, the guide budget's about £2,000 a year, which works out to roughly £166, 67 pence a month.
Right. Now, I noticed they had ground rent listed at exactly £0 in the source material. Why is that?
That is down to a massive regulatory shift. Post-2022, regulations effectively banned ground rent on new leases, setting it to what's called a peppercorn rate.
Which just means 0.
Exactly. It was a move to stop those terrible leasehold scandals where ground rents were doubling every 10 years.
Yeah.
Although, it is worth remembering that if you buy an older lease, you might still have a hefty ground rent attached.
Right. But for our new flat scenario, it's 0.
Correct.
Okay, so we're at about 360 quid just for the privilege of the council and the building management. What's next?
Energy and utilities. For a 2-bed flat, energy is sitting at roughly 100 quid a month. Water is around 40. Contents insurance is remarkably cheap, just over £8 a month.
Why so cheap?
Because the actual building's insurance is legally required to be covered within that service charge we mentioned earlier.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Then add in your broadband, your mobile contracts, and the TV license, which is about 15 quid a month.
Right. And then wallop, the commute.
Yeah, the commute is where the London budget takes an absolute hammering. A Zone 1 to 3 monthly travel card for one adult is over 200 quid, £201.60 to be exact. If both adults are commuting, you are suddenly looking at over £400 a month just to get to the office.
That's painful.
Add in a modest personal savings pot for internal wear and tear like repainting or replacing a knackered carpet. And the total monthly running cost for this Zone 3 London flat sits at exactly $817.60 every single month.
800 quid. That is a massive sum on top of a London mortgage.
It is.
But as the guide points out, it's a predictable sum. You know exactly where the money is going. Now, the guide flips the script completely. It takes us north up the M1 to a completely different lifestyle.
Yes, the second scenario. It's a 3-bed, freehold, semi-detached house in a Leeds suburb. Same setup, 2 Eddowes.
So surely this is cheaper, right? I mean, it's Leeds, not Zone 3 London, and there's no service charge.
Well, let's look at the numbers. The council tax is slightly cheaper. It's a Band C property, coming in at $168.26 a month.
Okay.
The energy bill is naturally higher because, obviously, heating a 3-bed semi takes more gas than a highly insulated 2-bed flat. So that's about 150 quid a month.
Right, and because it's a freehold, they have to buy their own full home insurance, right? Buildings and contents.
Exactly. The buck stops entirely with them. That is about £29 a month. But here is where the local transport mechanics completely change the math. In Leeds, our 2 adults are heavily reliant on cars.
Right, no travel card.
Exactly. They aren't buying a travel card, they were driving.
Right, the guide assumes they each drive about 8,000 miles a year, so 16,000 miles total.
Yeah.
And based on a petrol benchmark of 157 pence per liter, They are spending almost 240 quid a month just on fuel, 237 pounds 90 day.
It's massive. And that doesn't even factor in the MOT, the car tax, or the vehicle insurance.
Good grief.
But the real kicker, the line item that makes the freehold suddenly look incredibly expensive, is the maintenance sinking fund. The guide basically mandates putting 250 pounds a month into a pot for routine maintenance and major works.
Okay, hang on. I have to push back on this.
Go on.
250 quid a month, just sitting in a savings account. In this economy, who actually does that? Most people are scraping the barrel just to make the mortgage payment. Is that actually a realistic number, or is that just some textbook financial advice that nobody follows?
It is entirely realistic, and here's why. It gets right to the heart of the psychology of home ownership and that whole emotional debate between leaseholds and freeholds.
Right.
People absolutely despise service charges. They feel like they are paying rent on a property they already own. But a well-managed service charge is actually forced discipline. It's pooling money to pay for the roof, the structural walls, the communal areas.
Right, whereas with a freehold.
With a freehold, you are the absolute king of your castle, but you are entirely on your own. If that roof starts leaking or the boiler completely packs in midwinter or you get subsidence, there's no management company coming to rescue you.
You just have to find the cash.
Exactly. Surveyors estimate that maintaining a freehold property costs roughly 1% of its value every single year. Saving 250 pounds a month builds a necessary pot for those inevitable massive bills.
But people don't do it, do they? They see the lack of a service charge and think, brilliant, I'm saving 160 quid a month compared to that London flat.
Exactly. But they aren't saving anything. It is a deferred liability. If you aren't putting that money away, your budget is essentially just crossing your fingers and hoping the boiler doesn't explode.
That's terrifying.
The guide's genius is that it forces you to put that number on the spreadsheet.
So what does this all mean? When you tally it all up, the total monthly cost for the Leeds freehold is £932.
Yep.
That is over 100 quid more per month than the London flat. That feels completely backwards to everything you hear about the property market, but when you look at the mechanics of the petrol and the maintenance, it makes total sense.
It does. It really does. But having these budgets is only step one, because, as we all know, the world does not stand still.
True.
Prices go up, economies shift, which is why the guide introduces a concept that is normally reserved for big banks: stress testing.
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting, because I think stress testing removes that awful, vague panic from the news cycle.
Exactly.
You know, when you turn on the telly and the newsreader says energy prices are set to soar next quarter, you get that knot in your stomach because you don't actually know what it means for your bank account.
Right, it's just general anxiety.
Yeah, but this guide teaches you how to calculate the exact impact.
It demystifies the fear. A budget is entirely fragile if it only works when everything is perfectly aligned. You need to know what happens when a spanner is thrown in the works.
So how do we actually do the stress testing?
Let's look at the energy market. You shouldn't just guess that prices might go up. The guide points you towards Ofgem's typical domestic consumption values, or TDCVs.
Hold up, alphabet soup. What is a TDCV?
It is essentially the industry standard for what a medium household actually consumes in a year, measured in kilowatt hours. By knowing your area's TDCV and understanding the quarterly cap cadence, which just means that Ofgem recalculates the maximum price every 3 months, so January, April, July, and October, you can actively plot out worst-case scenarios.
Right.
The guide shows that in the London scenario, a 10% rise in the energy cap translates to exactly £11 and 62 pence extra a month.
See, it takes the emotion completely out of it. It's not a crisis, it's an 11 quid adjustment. And it's the same for insurance, isn't it?
Absolutely. In the Leeds scenario, they look at what happens if home insurance jumps by 20%, which honestly is entirely plausible given extreme weather events or local subsidence claims.
Sure.
A 20% swing sounds terrifying, but when you do the math, it shifts the monthly budget by about £5 and 83 pence. It is a knowable, manageable number.
And this extends to telecoms too, right? Because the guide highlighted a really crucial regulatory shift from Ofcom that I was cheering about.
Oh, yes. The ban on mid-contract price rises linked to inflation. This took effect for new contracts from January 2025.
Those old contracts used to boil my blood.
Oh, they were awful.
You'd sign up for a bog-standard broadband deal at 28 quid a month, and buried in the small print it would say, plus CPI inflation plus 3.9%.
Yes.
You needed an advanced maths degree just to know what your direct debit would be in March.
It was an incredibly opaque system designed specifically to confuse the consumer. But now, Ofcom mandates a strict pounds and pence presentation rule.
Meaning?
When you sign up, the provider has to tell you exactly how much that deal will rise in actual pounds and pence. It makes stress testing your telecom bills entirely straightforward.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, by understanding the mechanics of these bills and running these stress tests, you transform from a passive consumer who is just buffeted by the winds of the economy into an active planner.
That's exactly it.
You aren't just reacting to bills when they land on the doormat. You know your absolute worst-case scenario before you even make an offer on the house.
Which is the perfect segue into the actual execution of all this.
Right.
Armed with this knowledge, how do you protect yourself when you're out there viewing houses?
Right, the practical stuff.
Exactly. The guide provides two incredibly pragmatic checklists: the pre-offer checklist and the move-in checklist.
And you listening to this right now can literally lift these checklists and use them tomorrow. The pre-offer checklist is absolutely vital. This is the due diligence you must do before you legally bind yourself to a property.
It's all about finding the traps before they spring.
Right.
First, verify those VOA bans yourself online. Do not just take the estate agent's glossy brochure at face value.
Never.
Next, if it is a leasehold, you must read the actual lease to understand the full scope of the service charge. Is there a reserve fund already in place, or are they about to ask everyone for 10 grand to fix the roof?
And you have to look into the local transport infrastructure. The guide talks about controlled parking zones or CPZ permits.
Oh, those can be nasty.
Yeah, if you buy a house on a lovely street, you might assume you can just park outside. But in some boroughs, parking your car on your own street can cost you hundreds of pounds a year, depending on the CO2 emissions of your vehicle.
And if you have a family, or are planning one, you cannot ignore childcare. The guide recommends using the Quorum survey.
What's the Quorum survey?
Quorum is a major children's charity in the UK, and every year they produce a definitive, exhaustive survey of childcare costs across the country. Nursery fees vary massively from one local authority to the next.
Really?
Yes. Moving one postcode over might save you 50 quid on the mortgage, but cost you an extra 300 a month in nursery fees. You have to check the data.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about local authorities, we have to mention local road user charges. Things like the ultra-low emission zone ULEZ in London or clean air zones in other major cities. And just to be absolutely clear for you listening, things like ULEZ and clean air zones are obviously massive political talking points right now with very strong opinions on all sides. We're not taking a stance on the policies themselves here. We're just impartially looking at the financial impact as outlined in the source material.
Precisely. From a purely mathematical standpoint, these are highly localized variables. Your commute might be perfectly affordable today, but you must check the borders of these zones. If your route to work or the supermarket falls into a charging zone, your daily cost of living could spike overnight.
Right, so that is the pre-offer checklist, avoiding the traps. Then, once you actually have the keys, you switch to the move-in checklist.
This is about establishing control from day one. When you are surrounded by cardboard boxes, eating takeaway pizza on the floor, you need to get these admin tasks sorted immediately.
Number 1, set up realistic energy direct debits based on the TDCV calculations we talked about. Don't just pay whatever the previous owner was paying.
No, they might have kept the house at tropical temperatures.
Exactly. Number 2, open your water accounts immediately to confirm your surface water drainage status.
And don't forget the administrative fees. Check your TV license exemptions, or make sure you set up the payment. It's £180 a year, which works out to 15 quid a month. It is easy to forget, but the fines aren't.
And crucially, based on our leads example, actually set up that maintenance sinking fund transfer. Don't just intend to do it. Go into your banking app and automate a transfer into a separate savings pot every single payday.
It is about systematizing your peace of mind.
So to wrap up this deep dive, buying a home isn't just about getting the mortgage approved.
No.
That is just buying the printer. It is about systematically auditing the ink. It's understanding the mechanics behind your council tax, interrogating the water and service charges.
Yes.
It's creating that sinking fund so you aren't financially ruined by a leaky roof.
Yeah.
And it's stress testing your future life against inflation to ensure you can actually afford to enjoy the neighborhood you're buying into rather than just surviving in it.
It is about truly owning the math of your life.
Yeah.
And there is one final provocative thought to leave you with, looking slightly beyond just today's budgets.
What's that?
Well, the guide mentions an incredibly fascinating detail. The Leeds clean air zone was actually dropped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was dropped because it, quote, achieved its aims early and is no longer required.
Wow. Okay.
Think about the implications of that. If local authorities can suddenly implement or completely drop major infrastructure rules like clean air zones overnight, how quickly could the fixed running costs of your dream neighborhood transform without any warning?
That is a brilliant point. The landscape is always moving. Just when you think you have the cost of the printer ink completely figured out, the local council could just change the shape of the cartridge?
Exactly. It's a stark reminder that no area's budget is truly set in stone. You have to stay vigilant.
Keep your eyes open, check the official sources, and keep updating that budget. Cheers for joining us on this deep dive.